Here we have verse 12 of the 8th chapter of the Gospel of John. We have just finished the story of the woman taken in adultery, which, as we've mentioned before, some, and in fact many, believe was dropped into this context. Maybe is a little pericope that should have been included somewhere else. We leave that, of course, for another time, but the point is here that we now return certainly to John's Gospel, to the narrative that he had developed, and in the previous chapter that narrative had brought us through the events related to Jesus' activities on the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. It is interesting in that connection that if we are in fact now on that last day, if we're reaching that particular event, then we do have an interesting reference both to water and to light. Water was prominently used in the Feast of Tabernacles, and light was also part of the ceremonial observances. In the evening hours, they would light a fairly good-sized kind of torch device there in the court of the women, and it would actually shine rather brightly and could be seen from some distance away. And that could very well be what triggers the comment that's being made here by Jesus, as if to say, in the background of this light being lit up, that he himself is making a comment. So we continue possibly with that going on. Paulen, again, it's an indeclinable adverb. Un, conjunction, postpositive. So again, therefore, autois. This is the masculine singular dative third person pronoun. So again, therefore, to them. Elalesen. This is from laleo, contract verb. This is the third person singular. Aorist, active indicative. So again, he said to them, ho Jesus, the subject of the verb. Legon. This is a masculine active participle. It's nominative. It goes with the subject of the sentence. So he spoke to them, saying, and then ego eimi. Of course, in John's Gospel especially, that particular formula is used rather strategically and repeatedly. Ego eimi, which was the standard way to render the name Yahweh in the Old Testament, Septuagint version of the Old Testament, and so it does, in John's mind, certainly echo that particular affirmation, suggesting strongly, of course, an affirmation of deity. So ego eimi, I am. Tophos. To is the neuter article. Phos, the word for light. We have different kinds of English words, of course, from phos, photography, that sort of thing. Here Jesus says, I am tophos to kosmu, the light of the world. Rather sweeping idea. I am the light of the world, and certainly the Christian affirmation through history has been very much that is indeed the case. I am the light of the world. Ho, the, akaluthon. This is from akalutheo. This is the word for I follow. Akalutheo takes the dative as we find it here. This is the present active participle, masculine, singular, nominative. So the following emoi, dative of the first person pronoun, the following me one, ou me peripatese. Peripatese here is the third person singular aorist active subjunctive. So the following me one should not or will not, it's a form of the future, but it's in the subjunctive, as if to make it clear that this one is not going to meet the condition that's negatively described here. The following me one is not going to walk in. Preposition takes the dative in te scotia, in the darkness. Allah, contracted here, hexe. This is from echo. I have, it's the third person singular. Future active indicative, so he will have tophos, the light, same as we had here, tophos, taste, zoes, the light of life. So Jesus spoke, saying to them, I am the light of the world. The one that follows me is not going to walk in darkness. He's going to have the light of life, the great affirmation that Christian people have rejoiced in, of course, down through history. Sounds very much like John's statements in the book of 1 John, where he makes very similar kinds of affirmations regarding Christ And certainly here we find something quite consistent with the Johannine vocabulary and affirmation itself. And as we say, it may very well have been a statement made by Jesus as those lights were being lit up in the outer court of the temple toward the end of the Feast of Tabernacles.